I never meant to become the woman who brought down her husband's family empire. But then again, they never meant for me to be anything more than a pretty face at their dinner table. My name is Cecilia, and until recently, I was best known as Hayden's wife, a designation that carried all the weight of a decorative napkin ring at the Ross family's endless parade of social functions. The funny thing about being invisible, though, is how much you can see when nobody's watching you. Darling, you're wearing that? Bridget's voice carried its usual honey coated venom as she swept into my bedroom. My mother in law's perfectly coiffed silver hair caught the afternoon light, making her look more like an expensive statue than a person. I smoothed down my navy silk dress. Is something wrong with it? Oh, it's lovely for a regular evening, but tonight is special. She approached my vanity, running her finger along the edge like she was checking for dust. The Dawson Group is traditional. They expect certain standards. I can change. Perfect. I had something picked out already. She clapped her hands, and her assistant appeared with a garment bag, much more suitable. The dress she'd chosen was red, tight, the kind of dress that screamed trophy wife. I felt my jaw clench, but kept my expression neutral. Thank you, Bridget. How thoughtful. We need everything perfect tonight. The company's future depends on it. She paused at the door. Oh, and Cecilia, best to keep quiet during dinner. These investors are particular about women speaking out of turn. I waited until her footsteps faded before opening my notebook. Inside, written in precise characters, were phrases I'd been practicing for 3 years. Phrases in a dialect so rare that the Ross family had to hire a special interpreter for tonight's dinner. My phone buzzed. A text from Cadence. Ready for tonight? I typed back, as ready as 3 years of secret language lessons can make me. Show those snobs what you're made of. But I closed the phone without responding. Cadence didn't know the full plan. Nobody did. Hayden came in while I was zipping up Bridget's chosen dress. He loosened his tie, looking stressed. Mom picked that out, didn't she? How could you tell? It's very, you know. He gestured vaguely. Ornamental? Don't start, Cece. Tonight's important. I turned to face him, this man who'd slowly transformed from the charming grad student I'd fallen for into his parents' puppet. When did you stop seeing me, Hayden? He sighed, that familiar sound of dismissal. We don't have time for one of your moods. Dad needs everything perfect for the Dawson Group. Just try to make it through dinner without causing any scenes. I smiled, the same smile I'd perfected over years of family gatherings. Don't worry, I won't say a word. Thanks, babe. He kissed my cheek absently. You look hot. After he left, I opened my notebook one last time. The characters stared back at me, each one a key to the lock they'd put around my voice. 3 years of studying in secret, of practicing with Cadence, who'd spent her childhood in the same region as the Dawson Group. 3 years of being the silent, pretty wife while I prepared for tonight. Downstairs, I could hear Bridget directing the staff, Don practicing his pitch in his study, and Annalise arguing with Peter about seating arrangements. The perfect family tableau, getting ready for the most important dinner of their lives. I traced the final character in my notebook, the one that meant power, and closed it quietly. They wanted me silent? Fine. I'd give them silence, right up until the moment I spoke exactly the right words to bring their whole world crashing down. My phone buzzed again. The interpreter, Ty, confirming he understood his role in tonight's performance. Everything was set. I took one last look in the mirror. The red dress did its job. I looked exactly like what they wanted me to be, empty, decorative, harmless, perfect. Or the dining room hummed with nervous energy as servers glided between guests, pouring wine worth more than their monthly salaries. I sat where I was told, the perfect accessory between Hayden and an empty chair reserved for our interpreter, Ty. Ray Dawson and his team sat across from us, their expressions unreadable. Don commanded the head of the table, while Bridget fluttered around, ensuring everything was just so. Welcome, honored guests. Don raised his glass. We're delighted to have you here in our home. Ty translated, his voice shaking slightly. I noticed Ray's subtle wince at the pronunciation. The first course arrived, something French and fussy that Bridget had spent hours selecting. I watched Ty struggle through explaining the ingredients, mixing up crucial words in the investor's dialect. Is everything all right? Bridget asked Ty quietly, her smile growing strained. Yes, yes, just a bit nervous. Sweat beaded on his forehead. Hayden squeezed my hand under the table, his stress tell. The deal was already wobbling, and we hadn't even reached the main course. So, Ray spoke through Ty's stuttering translation. Tell us about your expansion plans. Don launched into his rehearsed speech while Ty fumbled through each sentence. I could see the investor's interest waning with every mangled phrase. Then Ty's phone buzzed. His face went pale. I I'm so sorry. My mother hospital emergency. What? Bridget's voice could have frozen hell. I have to go. Family emergency. I'm so sorry. He stood, nearly knocking over his wine glass. The silence that followed his departure was deafening. Well, Don laughed nervously, perhaps we could continue in English? Ray shook his head slowly. No English. No business. I watched the color drain from Don's face as he realized their interpreter had just walked out with their company's future. Surely we can, Bridget started, but Ray was already standing, speaking rapidly in his dialect to his team. I understood every word. This is exactly the unprofessionalism we feared. Let's not waste more time. Annalise, ever practical, was already on her phone, frantically searching for another interpreter. Peter just sat there, staring into his wine glass like it held salvation. Please, Hayden stood, desperate. Give us a moment to sort this out. Ray turned to his chief advisor and said in his native tongue, these people are all show, no substance. Just like we suspected. The advisor nodded, responding, at least the food was good, though that wife looks expensive. Probably where all their money goes. I felt my lips curl into a slight smile. Ray faced Don directly and announced in his dialect, we've seen enough. Thank you for dinner, but we'll be leaving now. The Ross family sat frozen, understanding only from his tone that their empire was crumbling. That's when I stood up. The red dress caught the light as I turned to Ray and replied in his own dialect, my pronunciation perfect after years of practice. Mr. Dawson, before you leave, perhaps we could discuss why you really came tonight. The shock on his face was worth every secret hour I'd spent learning his language. The stunned silence from my in laws was just a bonus. You speak our dialect? Ray asked, still in his native tongue. Fluently, I replied with a smile. And I believe we both know this dinner was never about expansion plans. His eyes narrowed with interest. No. You came to evaluate the family behind the company, to see if we're worth trusting with your money. I gestured to the chaos around us. Would you like to know what I've observed as an insider? Ray slowly sat back down, motioning for his team to do the same. Please, he said, continue. I could feel Bridget's rage radiating from across the table. Hayden was staring at me like I'd grown a second head. Don looked like he might pass out. But for the first time since I'd married into this family, all eyes were on me, and I had so much to say. First, I began in Ray's dialect, let me tell you about the real state of Ross Reynolds Enterprises. The company's current valuation is inflated, I continued in Ray's dialect, watching his team lean forward. But its potential? That's actually underestimated. Bridget's wine glass shattered in her grip. Red liquid spread across the white tablecloth like blood. Cecilia! Don's voice carried a warning, though he couldn't understand what I was saying. What are you doing? I ignored him, focusing on Ray. Your concerns about the leadership structure are valid. The company's been running on ego instead of innovation for years. Ray's eyebrows rose. You're surprisingly informed. I've had 3 years to study everything, not just your language. I pulled out my tablet, sliding it across to him. These are my proposals for restructuring, including new market penetration strategies for your region. Hayden grabbed my arm. Cece, stop whatever you're doing right now. I shook him off, continuing in the dialect. The old guard is resistant to change, Mr. Dawson. But change is exactly what you're looking for, isn't it? Fascinating. Ray studied my face. And where exactly did you learn our dialect? University exchange program. I lived in your region for a year. My thesis was on cross cultural business negotiations. I smiled. though my in laws never bothered to ask about my education. Annalise stood up suddenly. This is inappropriate. We should pause until we can get another interpreter. Sit down, Ray said in English, his only words in our language all night. Then he switched back to his dialect. Please continue, Mrs. Ross. You were saying about market penetration? For the next 20 minutes, I outlined everything I'd spent years analyzing: the company's strengths, its weaknesses, the opportunities they were missing. Ray's team took notes while my in laws sat in helpless silence. Your insights are unexpected, Ray said finally. But what makes you think you can implement these changes? Because I'm the only one in this room who sees both sides clearly. I understand your culture, your concerns, and this company's true potential. Don slammed his hand on the table. Enough! Whatever you're saying, Cecilia, stop now. Ray held up his hand. Mr. Ross, your daughter in law is saving your company. I suggest you let her finish. Hayden's face had gone from red to white. Cece, please. But I was done being quiet, done being the pretty ornament at their table. I turned to Ray and said the words I'd been practicing for months. I propose a new partnership structure, one that prioritizes innovation over tradition, real growth over artificial inflation. Ray studied me for a long moment, then spoke in a lower voice that only I could understand. There's something you're not telling your family, something about why you learned our language. I met his gaze steadily. Yes. He nodded slowly, then reached into his briefcase and pulled out a card. Call this number tomorrow. We'll discuss terms. Then he added, for my ears only, including what you found in Peter's offshore accounts. My heart skipped, but I kept my face neutral. He'd known all along. Ray stood, addressing the table in English. Dinner was enlightening. We'll be in touch. Then he switched back to his dialect, speaking only to me. You're wasted here, you know. Remember that when you make your decision. After they left, the silence was absolute. Until Bridget found her voice. How dare you, she hissed. How dare you hijack this dinner? Hijack? I laughed. I just saved it. By going behind our backs? Learning their language in secret? Hayden's voice cracked. Why didn't you tell me? I turned to him, speaking softly. Would you have listened if I had? Of course I. When's my birthday, Hayden? He blinked, mouth opening and closing. That's what I thought. I stood up, smoothing down the red dress they'd chosen to make me invisible. Mr. Dawson was right. I am wasted here. Where are you going? Dawn called after me as I walked toward the door. I paused, looking back at their shocked faces. To call my lawyer, I think it's time we all had a very different kind of conversation. The study door clicked shut behind me as Ray and I sat down for our private meeting. Through the heavy oak, I could hear Bridget's muffled sobs from the hallway. Your mother-in-law seems distressed, Ray said, settling into one of Dawn's leather chairs. She's not used to losing control. I remained standing, finally able to look him in the eye as an equal. But then, that's why you're here, isn't it? You knew about the company's problems before tonight. We've been watching for months. He gestured to the chair opposite him. The creative accounting, the inflated projections, the family dynamics, it's all very theatrical. And now? Now we have something interesting to consider. He pulled out a folder. Your proposals are excellent, but they'd require significant changes in leadership. A soft knock interrupted us. Hayden's voice came through the door. Cece, please, can we talk? Not now, I called back, keeping my eyes on Ray. Trouble in paradise? Ray asked, his expression knowing. Let's focus on business. But that's just it. He leaned forward. This is about both. We're prepared to make a substantial investment, but only under new management. Your management. My heart raced, but I kept my voice steady. You want me to run the company? We want you to lead the international division, full autonomy. But he paused meaningfully. Not while you're tied to the current leadership. You mean not while I'm married to Hayden? Personal entanglements complicate business. You understand this? Yes? Another knock, more insistent. This time it was Don's voice. Cecilia, this is my study. Open this door immediately. I stood and walked to the window, looking out at the manicured gardens below. What if I told you there's more? things that would make your decision easier. Ray's reflection in the glass showed his interest, such as, Peter's been moving money through shell companies. I have proof. And Don, I turned back to face him. Don's been falsifying reports to shareholders for years. And you can verify this? I pulled out a USB drive. Every transaction, every fake report, every lie. The pounding on the door grew louder. Annalise's voice joined the chorus. Cecilia, please, we can work this out. Ray studied me carefully. Why show me this now? Because you need to understand what you're really investing in and what needs to be cut away. He took the drive, turning it over in his hands. You've planned this for a long time. I learned from the best. The Ross family taught me everything about patience and calculated moves. I smiled without warmth. They just didn't think I was paying attention. The door handle jiggled violently. Hayden's voice again. Cece, baby, please. Whatever they're offering you, we can match it. We're family. Ray stood, straightening his tie. You have until tomorrow morning to decide. Either you take control, clean house, and lead our partnership, he paused, or we take this evidence to the authorities. That's quite an ultimatum. That's business. He headed for the door. Choose wisely. I opened it to find the entire family clustered outside. They parted like the Red Sea as Ray walked through. Hayden grabbed my arm. What did he say? What deal did you make? I looked at his hand on my arm, then into his eyes. He made me an offer. Whatever it is, we can work around it. Dawn stepped forward. As a family. Family? I laughed softly. For 3 years, I've been furniture to this family. Beautiful, silent, decorative furniture. That's not true, Bridget protested, but her voice wavered. When's my birthday, Bridget? What did I study in college? What's my favorite book? I watched their faces blank. None of you know, because none of you ever asked. Please, Hayden whispered, don't destroy everything we've built. I pulled my arm free. You mean everything you inherited? Everything you've been slowly running into the ground? What do you want? Dawn's voice was desperate now. I straightened my spine, feeling the power shift like a physical thing. I want what I've earned. The question is, are you ready to face what that means? The silence that followed was deafening. In it, I could hear the sound of their perfect world beginning to crack. I sat in my home office, surrounded by 3 years of carefully collected evidence. Each file, each document, each recorded conversation told the story of a family's slow descent into corruption. My phone buzzed. Cadence calling. Tell me everything, she said when I answered. The dinner? Ray? Did you use what we practiced? It worked perfectly. I pulled up the security footage I'd downloaded from Peter's private server. But there's something else. Remember those accounting discrepancies I mentioned? The ones you found while organizing the family records? Watch your email. I heard her gasp as the files loaded. Holy shit, Cece. These numbers, they're not just creative accounting. This is fraud. Keep watching. The door to my office opened. Hayden stood there, looking lost. Can we talk? I held up one finger. Cadence, I'll call you back. Be careful, she said before hanging up. Hayden walked in, his tie loose, hair disheveled. I couldn't sleep. Guilty conscience? Don't. He slumped into a chair. Just, don't. I need to understand. How long have you been planning this? I turned my laptop toward him. Remember 3 years ago? When Bridget told me I wasn't qualified to help with the company records? Cece? I started learning the language that night. But this? I gestured to the screen. This I found by accident. At first, his eyes widened as he recognized the offshore account numbers. Where did you get these? Peter's not as careful as he thinks. Neither is your father. I leaned back. Did you know about the fake shareholder reports? His silence was answer enough. Of course you did. I felt tired suddenly. You knew everything, didn't you? You just thought I was too stupid to figure it out. It wasn't like that. He ran his hands through his hair. It's complicated. Family loyalty. Stop saying that word. What word? Family. I stood up, walking to the window. You want to know what family is, Hayden? Family is asking your wife about her day. Family is remembering her birthday. Family is seeing her as a person, not a pretty prop for dinner parties. I love you, he whispered. No, I turned back to him. You love what I represented. The beautiful, quiet wife who made you look good at social functions, who never questioned, never challenged, never spoke out of turn. That's not fair. 3 years, Hayden. 3 years I spent learning a language, studying international business law, preparing for something bigger. Did you notice? Did you ever once ask why I was up late reading? Why I took those yoga classes that were actually language lessons? He stared at the floor. You know what hurts the most? I continued. I kept hoping you would notice, that you'd see me, really see me, and be proud, be excited, be anything but indifferent. What are you going to do? His voice was small. I sat back down at my desk. Ray gave me until morning to decide. Either I take control and clean house, or everything goes to the authorities. You'd destroy your own family? My family? I laughed bitterly. My family is Cadence, who believed in me, who helped me learn that dialect, who never once told me to be quiet or know my place. Please. He fell to his knees beside my chair. We can fix this. Together. I'll change, I promise. I looked at him, really looked at him, and felt nothing but pity. When's my birthday, Hayden? I. July? March 3rd. I turned back to my laptop. You should go pack some things. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. Cece, and take this. I handed him a file. It's everything I have on Peter's accounts. Show it to your sister. She deserves to know what her husband's been doing with company money. He took the file with trembling hands. At the door, he paused. I did love you, in my way. I know. I didn't look up. That's what makes this sad instead of just angry. After he left, I opened my email and began composing a message to Ray. The subject line read, Decision made. My phone buzzed again, Cadence checking in, but I needed a moment first, a moment to mourn the marriage I'd hoped for before I claimed the future I'd earned. The boardroom felt different at dawn. Sunlight streamed through floor to ceiling windows, illuminating the empty chairs where the Ross empire would soon crumble. I arrived first, arranging documents with mechanical precision. Ray entered at exactly 7 a.m. You look prepared. I've had 3 years to prepare. I handed him a folder. My terms. He scanned the documents, eyebrows rising. Ambitious. Realistic, I corrected. The company needs complete restructuring, new board, new management, new direction. The door burst open. Dawn stormed in, followed by Bridget and Hayden. Annalise slipped in last, her face tear-stained. You conniving little? Bridget started. Careful, Ray interrupted. Your daughter-in-law is about to become your boss. The silence was delicious. That's not happening, Dawn growled. I stood, smoothing my charcoal suit. No red dress today. Actually, it is, unless you'd prefer I share certain documents with the SEC. You're bluffing, Bridget sneered. Annalise stepped forward, clutching papers. She's not. I've seen the proof. Peter? Her voice cracked. Peter's been stealing for years. Dad's been covering it up. Annalise! Dawn's face reddened. No, Dad, it's over. She turned to me. Do what you have to do. Hayden hadn't spoken yet. He stood against the wall, looking lost. Cece, please. Mr. Dawson, I addressed Ray formally. Shall we begin? He nodded, pressing a button on his phone. His team filed in, along with several lawyers. This is illegal, Dawn shouted. You can't just take my company. Your company? I projected my voice to fill the room. The company you've been systematically destroying? The one you've used as a personal piggy bank? That company? I clicked through slides on the presentation screen, displaying damning document after document. Dawn's face went from red to gray. You have two options, I continued. Option one, step down quietly, accept the restructuring, keep your reputations, if not your positions. Option two, I let the threat hang. You ungrateful bitch, Bridget spat. We gave you everything. No, I turned to her. You gave me nothing. And that was your mistake. You thought keeping me quiet meant keeping me powerless. You never imagined I might be listening, learning, planning. This isn't what I wanted, Hayden said softly. What did you want, Hayden? A wife who smiled prettily at parties, who never challenged your family's corruption, who stayed small so you could feel big. He flinched. Ray cleared his throat. The papers are ready. Who's signing first? Don slumped in his chair. You'll destroy everything I built. No, I said. I'm going to save what's left of it. No thanks to you. One by one, they signed. Bridget's hand shook so badly she tore the paper. Annalise signed without hesitation, then walked out without looking back. Dawn signed last, throwing the pen across the room. Hayden? I held out the final document. Divorce papers. He stared at them for a long moment. Was any of it real? Parts of it? In the beginning, before I realized I'd married into a family that would never see me as an equal. I could change. You had 3 years to change. His signature was barely legible through his tears. Ray's team began filing out, carrying boxes of documents. The lawyers followed, leaving just Ray, me, and my former family. Get out of my boardroom, I said quietly. Your boardroom? Bridget laughed hysterically. You really think you can run this company? No, Bridget. I know I can run it. And my first act as CEO will be ordering a complete audit. I suggest you all lawyer up. They left finally, Dawn supporting Bridget, Hayden looking back one last time before the door closed. Ray touched my shoulder. You did well, but the hard part starts now. I know. I walked to the window, watching the sun climb higher over the city. But for the first time in 3 years, I can breathe. And speak, he added with a slight smile. Yes, I turned back to the boardroom. My boardroom. And believe me, I have a lot to say. The press conference room buzzed with anticipation. Camera flashes popped like lightning as I approached the podium, Cadence at my side, with a tablet full of notes we wouldn't need. This moment had played in my mind for years. Good morning, I began, my voice clear and strong. Today I'm announcing significant changes at Ross Reynolds Enterprises. More flashes, more murmurs. Following a comprehensive internal audit, we've uncovered substantial irregularities in the company's financial reporting and management structure. A reporter shot up. Are you confirming the rumors about offshore accounts? Yes. I met his eyes steadily. The SEC has been notified, and we're cooperating fully with their investigation. The room erupted. Through the glass walls, I could see Don watching from the hallway, his face ashen. Bridget stood beside him, clutching her designer handbag like a shield. Ms. Ross, another reporter called out, how do you respond to accusations that this is a hostile takeover? First, it's Ms. Craig now. The divorce was finalized this morning. I allowed myself a small smile. And this isn't a takeover, it's a rescue mission. The doors burst open. Hayden strode in, looking desperate. Cece, stop, please! Security moved to intercept him, but I held up my hand. Let him speak. He reached the podium, breathing hard. You can't do this. Think about what you're destroying. I am thinking about it. I turned to the cameras. I'm thinking about every employee whose pension was put at risk, every shareholder who was lied to, every woman who was told to sit down and be quiet while men like you ran things into the ground. We're family. No. My voice cut through the room like a blade. We were never family. I was property, an ornament. But now? I gestured to the screens showing the company's new organizational structure. Now I'm CEO. The reporters went wild, questions flying like arrows. What about the Dawson investment? Our partners have full confidence in the new leadership, I replied, nodding to Ray, who stood at the back of the room. In fact, we're announcing an expanded international division focusing on cross cultural business development. And the former executives? Will be cooperating with authorities. I locked eyes with Hayden. All of them. He stumbled back, face pale. You promised. I promised nothing. You assumed, like you always did, that I would protect you, that I would stay quiet. That was your mistake. Security finally led him out. Through the glass, I watched Bridget catch him, sobbing. Dawn had already disappeared. Ms. Craig, A young reporter stood up. There are rumors that you spent years planning this, learning the investors' language in secret, gathering evidence. Is that true? I thought about all those nights studying while Hayden slept. All those family dinners where I was told to be seen, not heard. All those moments when they underestimated me. The truth is, I said, they gave me plenty of time to plan. When you silence someone, you force them to listen, to watch, to learn. I just learned more than they expected. Annalise slipped into the back of the room, nodding once. She'd chosen to stay, to help rebuild what her father and husband had nearly destroyed. She, at least, understood the necessity of change. One final question, I announced. Then we have a company to run. What would you say to other women in similar situations? Women being silenced or underestimated? The room fell quiet. In that moment, I saw every woman who'd ever been told to be quiet, to be pretty, to be less. I'd say this: your voice matters, your intelligence matters, your ambition matters. And if they try to silence you, I smiled, thinking of that red dress from the dinner. Make sure they regret it. The room exploded with questions again, but I was already walking off stage. Cadence fell into step beside me. That was perfect, she whispered. You destroyed them. No, I replied, watching through the windows as my former family left the building for the last time. They destroyed themselves. I just spoke up about it. Ray approached with contracts ready for signing. Ready to build something new? I took the pen, feeling its weight, the weight of everything I'd earned, everything I'd fought for. Yes, I said. I've been ready for years. The evening air carried the scent of jasmine as I stood on my office balcony, watching the city lights flicker to life. Behind me, Cadence cleared her throat. They're ready for you. I smoothed down my navy silk dress, my choice this time, and walked into the conference room. Ray sat at the head of the table, surrounded by his team and a new group of potential investors. Ms. Craig, he gestured to the empty seat beside him. Would you like to begin? Actually, I smiled, moving to the head of the table instead. I'll take it from here. He nodded, a glimmer of pride in his eyes as he shifted to make room. The door opened again. Annalise walked in, carrying fresh projections. She'd proven herself invaluable in rebuilding the company, her practical mind unhampered by the old guard's corruption. Before we start, I addressed the room. I saw an interesting news article today. Don took a plea deal. Annalise's hands tightened on her papers. Dad always said he'd never admit guilt. People change when they face consequences. I pulled up our presentation. Speaking of change, the meeting flowed smoothly, my voice strong and clear as I outlined our vision. No interpreter needed, no one telling me to be quiet, no husband squeezing my hand in warning. My phone buzzed, a text from Hayden. Please, one coffee, for closure. I deleted it without responding. Some chapters needed to stay closed. Ms. Craig? One of the new investors raised his hand. These growth projections seem ambitious. They're realistic, I replied in his native language, earning surprised looks. I believe in understanding my partners. All of them. After the meeting, Cadence brought in champagne. They're signing. All of them. Of course they are. I took a glass. We built something real here. Something honest. Unlike your mother in law's latest venture? Cadence smirked, pulling up a social media post. Bridget had launched a lifestyle blog about maintaining dignity through adversity. Let her have it. I closed the laptop. She still doesn't understand what happened. And what did happen? Ray asked, joining us with his own glass. They thought silence meant weakness, that being decorative meant being empty. I walked to the window, looking at my reflection. No more red dress, no more quiet smile. They never understood that sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one you should fear most. Speaking of fear, Annalise interrupted. Peter's lawyer's called. He's offering information about Dad's other accounts in exchange for leniency. Tell them it's too late. I turned back to the room, my company, my rules. We found everything already. Being underestimated has its advantages. The door opened one last time. A security guard looked apologetic. Ms. Craig, your former mother in law is in the lobby. She's demanding to see you. Tell her I'm in a meeting. She says it's urgent. Something about family loyalty. I laughed. A real laugh, free from bitterness at last. Tell her I said thank you. Thank you? The guard looked confused. Yes. Thank her for teaching me the most valuable lesson of my life, that sometimes the best revenge isn't speaking up, it's waiting for exactly the right moment to break your silence. After everyone left, I sat at my desk, running my fingers over the smooth wood. My phone buzzed again, another text from Hayden. I miss you. This time, I replied, I miss who I thought you were, but I love who I've become. Then I blocked his number. Cadence poked her head in. Ready? The new board members are waiting for their orientation dinner. Just a moment. I opened my old notebook, the one filled with carefully practiced phrases in Ray's dialect. On the last page, I wrote one final entry. They told me to be quiet. They never said I couldn't listen. They told me to be pretty. They never said I couldn't be smart. They told me to know my place, so I took theirs instead. I closed the notebook and stood, straightening my shoulders. Through the windows, I could see my company's logo glowing against the night sky. My voice, my power, my future. Let's go, I told Cadence. I have a lot to say.